Hey folks, welcome to Real Movies Fake History, a show about movies, history, and the truth in between. By the way, I'm Gaz.
And I'm Mel.
And this time, we're diving into the glamorous world of high-end fashion. And by the high-end fashion, I actually mean the lowly assistant to the tyrant who rules the world of high-end fashion. Yes, we are talking about The Devil Wears Prada. A timeless story of someone who works a job they utterly hate, but waits an hour and 45 minutes until they quit the job. Oh, The Devil Wears Prada, Mel. I hope you're wearing your cerulean blue.
I am, and I've got a pair of Prada shoes right here, which I've taken off because they're too uncomfortable to actually wear while we record.
Oh, lovely. Oh, very, very good. Yes, I am wearing my best hoodie today. Thoroughly washed, very fresh, so just in honour of a movie with such good fashion. Did you see this movie when it came out originally?
Yes, I did. I saw it at the cinema.
What did you think when you seen it in the cinema originally?
I remember enjoying it. I mean, in 2006, I was at uni, and I think I just liked the glamour of it. It's about a fashion magazine.
Yeah.
And not just any fashion magazine. It is about the fashion magazine on the planet.
Aye. So I seen it in 2006 and I liked the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we are, how many years later? We're 17. We're nearly coming up to 20 years since this movie was released. I was talking to my wife, the producer, and we both agreed it might be a movie that I think is aged the fastest I've seen in a long time. And I'll tell you why. I feel like the world it represents as well, I feel like doesn't even really exist in that way at all. Like the magazine world doesn't seem...
It didn't really exist in that way in 2006 either.
I suppose so. Maybe it's because it's a fantasy of that.
It is a fantasy. And also, what it really is reflecting is probably how it worked in the 90s.
Right.
But it was set in the present.
Right.
So if you accept that it is already a fantasy, then you go, it hasn't really aged at all.
Yeah.
Because I would say the fashion is very timeless and beautiful. It's just not realistic.
Well, that's part of it too, is like I kind of feel like it's part of a bygone era though. You know what I thought about it too? I feel like it's a very post-Sex and the City movie. I don't know how you feel about that, but I feel like it's very much a movie where like the influence of that show was carrying over to feature films and to other TV shows quite rightly because it was such a trend-setting show. And I feel like part of that path of how they're exploring this new trend is they're going, we haven't tackled high-end magazines. We haven't seen the story about what happens at the high echelon of the biggest fashion magazines in the industry.
See, I actually think it's quite different to Sex and the City. And the reason being is Andy and Nate actually live in a shoebox.
True.
It is tiny and it looks like the sort of apartment you would live in New York if you have just graduated from uni and you have no money.
That is something I did appreciate.
And Andy doesn't buy any of those clothes because she can't afford them. They're coming out of a closet. As in Sex and the City, there is a fantasy that they can afford all that stuff.
And they have the biggest closets in the world and like a billion things. You know,
yeah,
like, there
so
is a
to
real...
me, it actually feels quite different.
Yeah, I could see what you mean by that.
And Andy is not obsessed with boys and relationships in the way that the women in the Sex and the City are often portrayed.
And is that why it appeals to yourself more as well? Is that like you are watching someone that is at least initially grounded in life, right? You're not you're not starting off with someone that's rich, as you said, or
yeah. She's a graduate. She's in love with her boyfriend. She wears regular clothes. She's tried to get a job for a newspaper and hasn't been able to manage it, which is why she's applied for the assistant job.
And there is, you always relate to someone when they go, I tried to get a job and I didn't get it. And you're like, oh, I relate to that. I mean, who doesn't relate to that?
So I've had to sacrifice and get a job that I didn't really want to do, but I'm hoping this job will set me on a path to a job I actually want.
Right.
And especially straight out of university or college, that's a really common experience.
Yeah. I mean, you do, that is true. You do relate to it. And I know that when I look at the cast of the movie, I feel like Emily Blunt and Meryl Streep, they seem to be getting all the credit in a way because everybody was talking about Meryl Streep is amazing. She's so
She
good.
is phenomenal in it.
Which she is great in it. And Emily Blunt really like just completely exploded as a star.
Incredible.
Like it really was a real like, wow, where did this lady come from? You know, and she's so interesting in the movie because she's got all the emotions in the movie in the way. Like she's the one that's happy and sad and upset and sick. And she gets to do all these broad... It's one of the best supporting roles an actor can get because you've got so many directions you can like play with. But I think Anne Hathaway is kind of underrated in a way because, like you said, if she's not convincing as the ordinary person that you relate to initially as the struggling, you know, graduate, you're not going to get into this movie at all.
But I think she is very relatable. And I think her path to caring about fashion in many ways is because she wants to get ahead in the job.
Yeah, right.
The only reason, like the first bit is Nigel gives her a pair of black heels. She doesn't want to wear them. The only reason she wears them is because her boss gives her a look of such disdain that she puts them on. She's not doing it because she loves fashion.
Yeah.
Not at the beginning. She's doing it so her boss gives her approval.
One of the things about her character, Andy, she spends so much of the early part of the movie with all this promise about how she's going to be a journalist and that sort of thing. And when she joins the fashion magazine, on paper, she detests it, right? She as you said, I feel like she's being manipulated in many ways to like get into fashion and gets absorbed into this world. And it's almost like, do I believe that she's being seduced by it in a manipulative way? Consumerism is taking over her and she doesn't really want to do any of this stuff, but she has to in order to keep her job? Or does she actually enjoy what's happening to her? Does she actually enjoy suddenly
it's a bit
being
of both? And I don't think it necessarily happens in strict parallel. I think it absolutely starts with she has to wear certain things and so she does.
Yeah.
And I think once Nigel takes her under her wing and teaches her about fashion, and what I mean by fashion is not just the brand of X or the brand of Y. What I actually mean is fabric and cut and structure of garments and what suits certain body types and how to mix colors and how to choose the right belt. I think once she starts learning about those sort of things, that's when I think she starts to enjoy it.
It's interesting. Because there are parts of her character, Mel, that I do struggle with a little bit. I think Anne Hathaway's terrific.
She's fantastic. But also, please remember, she's playing like a 21 or 22-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Young woman, first job, moving to the big city. Like, she's young.
She's young and she's terrific. And, you know, this was her first adult movie after Princess Diaries, which I guess you would have seen.
Absolutely saw.
Massive movies, right? And I don't think people realize how iconic she was in them. I mean, they were big movies for teenagers.
Oh, I love the Princess Diaries.
Yeah, and so she's suddenly an adult now, and you're seeing her, and she's like, oh wow, and she really is an adult. She's got a boyfriend, you know.
But it feels realistic. It doesn't feel like she's some sexed up bunny. Like she looks like a young woman.
Yes. Let's start with, you know, the first montage of the movie.
Yeah, we should set the scene.
We should. You know, we're in New York. It's glamorous. You know, everyone's getting dressed in the opening credits.
Not her, though. Like, the models are getting dressed.
Right.
And they've got the gorgeous lingerie and the fabulous pantyhose and the perfect shoes and the eyelashes curler.
Right.
And I love the contrast that Anne Hathaway's got just regular little undies that we all have at home.
Right.
And she puts on a tiny bit of makeup. Because that's all she has. But she looks fabulous, but she doesn't look wow.
Well, like, I guess when you work in these magazines and you're the model, you need to look amazing. And they've got this, you know, fantastic montage and they're walking down the street like they own the city and the clackers with the high heels and stuff like that.
They're getting in cabs. She's getting the subway.
Yeah.
And of course, she's getting the subway. She's just she hasn't even landed a job. She's landed an interview for a job.
That is right. And so she's going and she goes to the runway building, and it's not the best introduction, I must say, to get a job interview when like Emily Blunt just goes, oh, HR, God, they're having a laugh, aren't they? What a sense of humor they've got. You know, that's the judgment, instantaneous judgment as soon as you walk in.
Because she's not a fashion girl.
And like you said, I think you're supposed to go, wow, you know, look at how glamorous these models are. And then you go, look at how like lower end Anne Hathaway is. Look how kind of like that. But here's my question for you. I wonder if initially the movie was supposed to be super high contrast. Like, I sometimes wonder if, like, the movie has a she's all that kind of problem. And you know where I'm going, where, like, you have this beautiful girl that is kind of, you know, everyone goes, God, she's ugly. Gee, she's fat. And then you're kind of going, she's Anne Hathaway. I mean, she's, like, stunning.
See,
right?
I think this is a less extreme version of that, which is why it works.
Okay.
So she is absolutely beautiful, but she is not wearing, at the beginning of the movie, clothes that necessarily suit her figure.
Okay.
They're fine.
Yeah.
And I certainly had a bunch of outfits like that when I had my first grad job because I had no money, and you went to Target or wherever else to buy a little corporate dress.
There's nothing wrong with that.
But that's what you do for your first grad job. The thing is, she looks it. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
But it is fish out of water for a high-end fashion magazine.
Yes.
And think about it in the context of Runway is top-tier fashion magazine. So think of the equivalent if she was working in a top-tier law firm or a top-tier engineering firm or something else that's also, or a top-tier accounting firm. They have standards of dress code and standards of etiquette and cultures that reflect those organizations.
Right.
So if this movie was about her starting off in a high-end law firm, she would also look completely out of place.
Yeah. There is enough of a difference that I totally get what the movie's going for. But part of me now in like 2023 does sit there and she's like, throughout the movie, especially the first half of the movie, they spend a great deal of time going, God, you don't look great. And gee, you look a little like, well, you don't wear any makeup. You know, there's a lot of this kind of stuff. And I'm going like, Anne Hathaway looks amazing in like the movie. Like you said.
But what they're really saying is she's not wearing the uniform.
Yes,
it's actually not really about her, whether she looks hot or not, or beautiful or not. It is, you work in Runway, but you are not wearing the Runway uniform.
Okay.
And that is stilettos. That is a full face of makeup. That is gorgeous clothes. She's not wearing the uniform.
Got you. And I like, when you've put it like a uniform, I actually get that. It's like going to the factory without overalls on.
Exactly, because they're not saying she looks ugly.
Okay.
That's not what they're saying.
Okay.
They are doing a bit of fat shaming because she's not a size 4 or 2 or whatever.
Yeah, they do a lot of that.
But that's endemic in the industry, unfortunately.
Yes, got you. Not to jump ahead into that topic, I guess, but I do wonder if, like, is the movie embracing that for laughter because of how absurd it is, or is the movie kind of going...
Oh, it's a critique on how messed up it is.
You feel that's what it is?
Absolutely, it's a critique. And it makes it really obvious. There's a scene where Emily Blunt goes, I'm on this new diet where I don't eat anything, and if I feel lightheaded, I eat a piece of cheese.
I eat a piece of cheese.
Now, that is deliberately designed to go, that's insane.
It's stupid. Yeah, it's ridiculous, isn't it? Right.
But that's what women in the fashion industry feel like they need to do. So I actually think that was a very clear critique on that.
Interesting, yeah. I sometimes, because I know there's a scene where, like, Stanley Tucci brings her into... you know, one of the clothing rooms and is like...
Not one of them, the clothing room.
It's like the big, you know, the library, right? And, you know, I think there's the ideas of like, gee, you know, I don't know if I'm going to find anything your size in here. You know, there's that kind of feeling of like, but I don't know.
Because it was all about sample sizes, and sample sizes were all size 2 and size 0.
Right.
Which, again, is fiercely problematic in this industry. And I thought that's what they were trying to make clear in this movie.
Interesting.
Because both Anne Hathaway and Emily Blunt lost weight for this movie.
That's really, yeah, okay, interesting. I know Emily Blunt said that.
This feeds into Anna Wintour, the real editor, or was at the time, of Vogue. She had a thing about being skinny.
Yes.
And about her staff being on the petite side.
Fascinating. So at a staff level, it's like...
Remember, it's about the uniform.
Yeah.
And the uniform is how you look.
And is it to her, I guess it's like to Anna Wintour, it's like standards. It's like, we're a science company, we hire smart people. It's a fashion magazine, I hire thin people or something.
Thin and beautiful.
Thin and beautiful. Yes, that's right. Not thin and ugly, right? You know, yeah, it's... Part of me wonders if the movie is both criticizing it and also kind of going, we're not really going to challenge it though too much. Because it is a romantic... It's not a romantic comedy.
They challenge it in every scene, nearly.
Oh, I don't know, Mel. I wonder. We might differ about this. I sometimes think the film kind of allows the eccentricities of the industry to be there. But I don't think the film's openly going, this is actually terrible. It's kind of going, isn't this industry kind of eccentric? You know, but it's not going, that's really quite, I mean, Anne Hathaway looks terrific in the movie. They just totally rip her apart, like, for quite a lot of the first part. And it's not that
but so many industries would do the same. And that doesn't mean it's okay. I think it's, there is something in this movie about the desire for personal excellence. And in the fashion world, that means you look perfect because that is our brand. What we are showing you in this magazine is what to wear, how to do your hair, but also what books to read, what journalists, what articles you should be reading. Like, this is a kind of, you know, when they originally created Vogue in 1892, it was made for what they called the leisure class, which is people who didn't work for a salary. That didn't mean they didn't own businesses, they had money, but it was about fashion and sport and travel and all, like, for people who had money.
Yeah, for elite people.
This magazine is not designed for the average person.
Yes, got you. And I have to remember that.
Like, it's not. And so one of the things that Anna Wintour did when she became the editor of Vogue in 1988 was she started to change some of that and did a bit more mix and match, and it was a bit more eclectic. But at its core, it is about high-end fashion, couture and designer handbags and shoes, like
the exclusive stuff.
And as Anna Wintour's, or in this case, Miranda Presley's assistant, she expects her staff, when people come into that office, to represent her brand.
Yes. And
that is of a polished fashion person.
And so here's the question then. In the movie, and the movie does this quite well, where Emily Blunt's character, Emily, is supposed to be interviewing Anne Hathaway's Andy.
Yes.
But of course, Anna Wintour, who is Miranda Presley in the movie. So Miranda Presley kind of interjects and says, well, you've kind of screwed up the last couple of hires, so I'm going to do this one. And so you've got this lovely, and it is good because we've all been in interviews where you're in an intimidating situation. And so they go in and they go, ooh, Andy's there. And she's not making a good first impression, but I guess, what do you think
I don't think she's making a bad impression. And I think she does cut through.
Well, that's my question, is that what do you think it is that really sells her to Miranda?
Like, she's smart and she thinks. And I think one of the things about Emily, and I suspect the other assistants, and the reason why they haven't lasted is they're beautiful, but they're a bit dumb.
Right.
And at the end of the day, we're running a business here, and we need people who can prioritize and delegate and make decisions and make sure things keep moving so we can produce a magazine each month.
And that's something I think you see about Miranda, is that she might be many things, but she's not dumb. You don't get to that position unless you are...
She's a businesswoman.
Smart and...
calculating, and she understands the distinction between strategy and tactics.
She's got acumen. I do relate to this, Val, and you will too. You know, when you get that first kind of injection of like, I'm in a new job and I've got to do 50 things... Boy, I feel the anxiety hit me. You know, Miranda barks like 10 orders and I can't remember 8 of them. I go, oh God, I know what this feeling's like. It's bloody horrible. So I find like it's a great entry point to kind of get a common audience into the idea that like, this is how difficult it is to survive in this industry. It's like a meat grinder.
The way Miranda in the movie is running her office is not one where you have an induction and here are the key contacts and this sort of thing. She's working on the assumption there's a baseline of knowledge you have if you get hired for this role.
And there's no manual, is there?
Which is not crazy, right? Like, if you're an engineer grad, and you get hired by an engineering firm, they're going to expect you to have the base level of knowledge that your degree gives you. So if you're working as an assistant to a fashion editor, you should probably have heard of the brand Dolce & Gabbana.
Okay, yeah.
Like, that's not unrealistic.
I suppose so. That's true. She's got an uphill struggle, though, you know, when you don't really know. But
and they do absolutely haze her and they don't treat her well. I'm not suggesting that.
Oh, yeah.
That they're kind and caring.
Yeah.
But I think you've got to find a bit of a balance there. An induction program would definitely help. And, like, it's little things like the desk must be managed by someone at all times. And if that means you can't go to the toilet, it means you can't go to the toilet. Like, all that sort of stuff is insane. But I guarantee there's a bunch of CEOs out there that would have the same stupid rules.
Yeah.
I just don't buy that it's just someone like her.
Got you. There is a point, you can see early on, the pressure on her is humongous, when
Miranda or Andy?
Andy, and she has to go to Calvin Klein and you got to get me like 10 skirts or whatever. And then you got to go over here and you got lots of things to do. And
which is literally the role of an assistant. Well, let's not be crazy.
No,
that's what they do.
That's right. And as I watched the movie, I thought to myself, well, this is two things at the same time. One is that it's kind of a fantasy in many ways because people do have that fantasy of like, what would it be like to work at a big magazine? So you get to enjoy the glamour from a distance. You see models coming in and out and you see the fashion and the dresses.
Not just that, they would have had famous people come in and out.
Well, yeah, right. That's right. And but there's also part of it is very keen on making you go, look how terrible it is. Though. This is brutal.
And
work.
it is brutal.
And it's not fun. It's actually, and Andy comes home and you can tell she is not happy and she's complaining about the fashion industry, about how shallow it is and stuff. And so it's quite clever. The film's selling a fantasy because it's going, we want the audience to enjoy the fact that there's lots of fashion in the movie and there's famous people coming in and out, but you're also going, yeah, but it sucks though, doesn't it? I mean, there's a lot of stuff we've got to put up with here.
And they take your pound of flesh.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And they can take the pound of flesh because of the status of the company. People want to work there. There's a power imbalance.
They're the worst industries, by the way, to work in. That industry where you've got the gatekeepers and because the thing about Andy's job, which is tough, is that because there's 1,000 people that want that job, they pay you rubbish.
Yep.
But you're working 24 hours a day.
Now, in the Anna Wintour biography, this is the 2022 one by Amy Odell, it talks about that on average, many of the people at Vogue actually got paid 30% higher than industry standard.
Really?
Yeah. Now, I don't know how that fitted in for the assistants, but that was in order to keep the best talent, keep some loyalty, especially in the 80s and 90s. They had incredibly generous expense accounts.
Really?
So I think to me what that shows is, if you want to keep the best, you do have to pay for it. But remember, Andy is just an assistant. She's not a fashion editor or a photography editor or the writing editor.
Right.
She's down the bottom of the food chain. She's not making decisions. She's not going to editorial meetings. She's not doing interviews. She's not doing any of that.
No. And in the documentary, the September issue, I remember they were talking about how they wrap gifts. This is what they do. And,
that is what assistants do in lots of industries.
Yeah. Pick up laundry. And the movie goes into you got to buy presents for Miranda's kids.
Yep.
And, this is the life of an assistant. It's not the fashion so much. It's more what's around. You could keep her life smooth.
Yeah. Well, if you want to do the fashion stuff, you need to be working for the fashion team.
And they don't get it easy either, though. I mean, you do get that. I think it's quite realistic, too, because the fashion editors, their life is kind of going to someone like Miranda, in this case, Anna Wintour for Vogue, and they're going, what do you think of this? I don't like it. What about this one? Is textured? No, I don't want texture.
You're doing it in quite a negative way. Like, she absolutely goes, no, not good enough, but she doesn't sound depressed.
That's true. It's more.
She's doing it because she demands better.
That is true.
She's saying no because she thinks the idea is rubbish.
Yes. And I should do it because Meryl Streep based her voice on Clint Eastwood.
Yes.
So I should probably do it more like Clint Eastwood, where he's just like, well, I don't like what you're wearing today. Something like that. I suppose part of you from a distance, and the movie, I think, and the documentary of Anna Wintour do this a little bit, is that Anna Wintour's incredibly dislikable on the surface of things. But then I have to remind myself that both the character Miranda and the real Anna Wintour, they got to their position in a fashion industry that would have been ran by men. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, no. I mean, it's more complicated than that. Like, Vogue had previous women editors before Anna Wintour. But senior management at Condé Nast is definitely dominated by men back then.
Right.
So there is still
at the top
patriarchy bit.
Yes.
And absolutely that feeds into it. But I actually think what you're forgetting is, at the end of the day, Anna Wintour is responsible for sales of her magazine and enough advertising revenue to make the company money. And she is an incredibly busy woman, and she doesn't have time to indulge in an idea that she thinks is objectively rubbish. Like, you know how people who are uber busy, they get to the point quickly because they don't have time. So if she thinks that idea is rubbish after 5 seconds, she's going to say so because she needs to hear the next idea. We need to keep moving.
And this brings me to a thought that, like, because I know the author of the book,
Yes.
The Devil Wears Prada, which is Lauren
Weisenberger.
her, yeah. Like, she worked for Anna Wintour.
Yes, she was one of the assistants.
And so I haven't read the book, I have to confess. Really, the movie, and I am imagining the book as well, is trying to kind of go, look at this tyrant, right? She is, I mean, she's not just a tyrant. There's a little bit of complexity, but mostly it's someone who like went through the meat grinder of the Anna Wintour thing and came out and went, that's crazy. I mean, that's just, it's impossible to like, to please this woman. She's crazy. And so I need to write about it to like kind of go, I need to get this out of my system. Like, there's a story in here. This is why the movie's fascinating, is that this part of the movie, and I know the director of the movie, David Frankel, has said that he really, really respects Anna Wintour and the persona of her and her pursuit of excellence. So as much as he's making a movie about the pursuit of excellence that Anna Wintour's trying to go for and the kind of debris she leaves in her wake, part of the movie's also going, she's nuts and she's crazy in a way,
I don't
right?
think the movie suggests she's nuts. I would say the movie suggests that she likes her power, she likes her position, and will do anything to keep it and maintain it.
But she's deliberately very dislikable in the movie sometimes, right? Like,
Oh, absolutely. But how many CEOs, I mean, she's editor-in-chief, are dislikable? All of them?
I feel like there's some statistic where like most of them are psychopaths or so. Like they're
Yeah, like,
totally like
You're not a normal person that gets to this job.
yeah, true.
Like,
That's what I'm going for.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
You're wanting her to be normal. She's not normal.
She's just not. Yeah, thank you. I guess that's all I'm trying to go is like, God, she's not like, she's not a human person in a way. I find
Well, no, she is absolutely a human being. Like, let's not be.
she's an alien. No, she's like, she's disconnected, I think, at a human level from a lot of people.
Okay.
Right.
So the way the biography talks about this, and many people have said this about Anna for decades, she is by nature an incredibly shy person.
Okay.
She has a very close inner circle where she lets her guard down.
Okay.
She is very much about professional boundaries.
Yes.
So with someone like her assistant who's been on her team for 2 months, she's not going to talk about her marriage or whether her kids are doing well. Like, that's just not how she operates.
Got you. Because when the September issue came out in 2009, she did a bit of...
Her daughter was in it.
Right. But she did a bit of a press junket, for it to promote the movie.
Yeah, but Grace Coddington actually did most of the press.
And she is terrific.
Grace is a genius. And that's one of the things I would say about this movie is why it's Nigel and not someone to play Grace.
Yeah. Oh, you mean to criticize it, you mean?
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yes.
Stanley Tucci is phenomenal. So it's not about him.
Totally.
But I was like, you don't actually get to see Grace's genius in the movie, nor do you get to see Nigel's genius.
No, I'll even go as far as I don't feel there's really any significant creativity that pokes through, apart from some very short scenes at a fashion editor level.
But you don't
Right.
even see how he's come to. So you see meetings where they decide to go with a tutu and a belt.
But that's not the work, right? That's just a little like that's a shallow representation of that work.
Oh, compared to what a fashion editor actually does. Like
Right.
in the September issue, you see the work Grace Coddington does in terms of the photo shoots and the style and the cameras and the photographers and all that detail and the artistic talent that goes into it. You're right. For a fashion magazine, the movie lacks that.
Right.
It lacks any kind of artistic temperament.
I think maybe that's where I feel a little shallow with it a little bit, because I think there's an opportunity, but I know there's only so much you can do. But I agree with you. When you see the September issue and that's the real magazine and the real September issue, you kind of go, because Grace Coddington is so cool in that movie.
She's amazing. She's a genius. But also, please notice, she does not look like she's wearing high-end fashion, and she wears hideous flat shoes. So again, this is the disjunct between fantasy that is the movie and the reality.
And that's the thing that I thought what I'm craving is, because, Grace's story is fascinating because she was a model and she was stunning looking.
But so was Anna Wintour.
Right. And then she was in a car accident.
She was.
And then she kind of recovered and then became an editor. And now she's like one of the biggest fashion editors in the world.
Yep.
And so that story, I thought, wow, that is a great story, you know, and she's very inspirational. And watching Anna Wintour like chop her legs off whenever a decision gets made, it's so tough to like see, like, because she's an artist, right? And it's like seeing an artist.
Those two have great tension and respect for each other.
Yeah.
And when you see the September issue is finally printed, most of the photos are Grace's. It's not the junior editors because they're not good enough. So even though Anna is tough on her, and she is, but rightly so, because she wants to bring out the best in Grace.
Yeah.
Grace is still delivering the goods.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and her work's amazing. Like, that's one of the most inspirational parts of that, isn't it?
I think the difference is in this is a movie from the perspective of Andy.
Yeah.
The September issue is really about how the biggest edition for the year is made.
Yes.
And who are the key players and what does that look like? I think it's telling a different story.
Yeah. And you're right. I think you're right, though. That's fair to say that I think Nigel, who is great, you know, Nigel introduces himself early and Stanley Tucci does a great job. He was hired super late into production on the movie. And I have to say, and this is the thing about Stanley Tucci that I think is very clever. He's playing, you know, a gay man. But the thing is, I feel it's very important that he is someone who is not too exaggerated as a fashionista character. He's actually a very subtle, very grounded kind of person. I think, you know, a worse actor or another actor takes that role and goes, oh, I know what you want. You want me to be at 100 all the time.
See, that's really interesting. So one of the guys that used to work at Vogue, and forgive me for his name, a very good friend of Anna Wintour's at the time, he was insanely flamboyant.
Right.
Gay man. So I think this is partly to reflect the book, The Devil Wears Prada.
Okay.
Where Nigel is in it, versus some of these characters in real life are much more flamboyant.
Right. You almost have to tone it down, maybe.
Well, I think you tone it down in this context because you want the clothes to be louder.
Okay. Yes.
You can't have everything amped up to a 10 in this movie. You need to have different layers of subtlety to go, do we want to be fawning over a beautiful pair of Prada shoes, or do we want to be fawning over how ostentatious one character is?
And this is interesting because, let's face it, the biggest eccentricity of the movie is Meryl Streep's character.
And it should be. She is the editor.
So if you have another character that's even more eccentric in a louder, more flamboyant way, you actually lose some of the colour of her in a way. You're supposed to have almost everyone be normal to a certain extent, and then her be the one that you're like, well, that's not normal. And she's mean, you know, there's that, I remember, this is why I thought Anne Hathaway is underrated in this movie, because there's that scene where Andy gets her first proper, like, you know, showdown with Miranda, and it's in her office, and Miranda says, she says, I'm very disappointed in you. I thought I'd take the chance and hire the...
This is the night after she sees Miranda having a fight with her husband.
Right. That's right. You know, where she tries to deliver the mock-up book. There's that scene where Miranda goes at her and she says, I really thought I'd try and hire the smart fat girl or something. And it's such a brutal put down.
Oh, and she's deliberately being mean. I think part of the reason why she's being mean is she feels so embarrassed that a member of staff has seen her in a vulnerable moment where her marriage looks far from perfect.
Which it is.
So she is doing it to punish her.
Yes.
Now, that is awful, juvenile, unprofessional, etc. Like all those things.
Oh, you hate her for doing it.
But you're meant to.
Right. Well, yeah, and it works. But Anne Hathaway's face is so good to react to that because she is utterly beaten.
Yeah, she's waited for the book after hours. She hasn't been given clear instructions clearly on what to do. She's had to bring the dry cleaning, do this, do that. The twins are being naughty and giving her false instructions.
And you know, when I see those twins and the staircase, I just think of The Shining. You know, it's like there's definitely a reference in there to like The Shining of two twins like that. They're creepy. They're very, very creepy.
Now, the second assistant did have to deliver the book each night.
Oh, really?
To Anna's house.
Okay.
So that is factually correct.
You're nervous. Yeah. So, I mean, how you know, the real Anna Wintour, like how brutal was she? Do you know? Like, have you? Is there
I can't say definitively because
you haven't worked with her personally.
No, I haven't worked with her personally. And her biography, what it does talk about is they absolutely did have to work long hours.
Yeah.
And they did sometimes have to work in on the weekends and do this and do that. I think there's a disjunct between how junior staff were treated and how senior staff were treated. So senior staff, editors, etc., they were given very generous expense accounts.
Really?
So when they'd go traveling for work, they could stay at 5-star hotels, fly business class, like get champagne, get clothes. So
Right.
they're getting some perks. She could be very tough and also at the same time very generous.
Okay.
You can do both.
And would you be loyal? I mean, you'd be loyal to her
Well, people
key
like
staff.
Grace Coddington worked with her for over 20 years.
Yeah, she must be then.
Maybe even 30.
Yeah, for decades. So she must
But
be.
she got rid of people who she thought were underperforming.
Okay.
So on her way up to Vogue US, she had run Vogue UK. She'd run another, like a house and garden sort of magazine. I can't remember the exact name. When she came in, if she thought there were certain people that weren't right for the vision she wanted to take that magazine to, she'd sack them. But that's what you do when you take over a magazine or a business, your new leadership. Like, you get rid of people who you don't think can work with you.
Because I know she was on Letterman, and Letterman like held up the September issue. It's like 800 pages long or something. It's like a Bible. And he asked her, he said, how many of these pages would you have made the decision on? And,
Every one.
And all of them was the answer. So this isn't, you don't like farm this work out to your people. This is a real.
She loves this. This is her passion, her baby.
So, and this is where I'm stuck a bit. I suppose the point is that you're supposed to be a little bit impressed by who she is, but then there's this overwhelming kind of tyrant personality represented in both the movie and in the reputation that she has
But you
outside
can
of the
be
movie.
a genius and cruel.
Oh yeah,
Like you can do both.
yeah, that is true. Lots of people have done this.
I know, like
Yeah.
it's not I think, and this is the unfair sexism that is often associated with Anna Wintour.
Yeah,
Because she's a woman, they want her to be perfect
right.
and not have flaws,
yes,
which is a standard we would never demand of men.
yeah, and I did think about this. I was trying to think of myself, is there like an equivalent male personality that's well known publicly that has the same level of scrutiny in terms of the personality profile as someone like Anna Wintour?
So what about someone like Richard Branson back in the day?
Yeah, I mean, you could be true. I mean, I would say at a personal life level, like who he's dating, who he's married to, certainly the scrutiny's there. But I think,
But also his business dealings, the successes, the failings,
yeah,
etc.
that's very true. This is a tricky one. I guess I would have to say that I think Branson was quite good at, because he was kind of affable as a personality, whether that's true or not. I mean, let's face it, he could be an absolute, tyrant behind the scenes.
Absolutely, yep.
But like at a TV level, he played the game very well, where you could look at him and go, oh, he seems like an okay guy.
I think the difference is for Branson, part of the Virgin brand was him. Anna would never say that she is part of the Vogue brand in that way.
Yeah.
For years and years, she shied away from doing much media.
Right.
And it was only when her reputation became a bit complicated and people thought she was too removed and not human enough that she started doing more media stuff.
Right.
Because remember, someone like her wants the work to speak for itself. What is important to her is Vogue, not
Right.
Anna.
Which brings me to a question. And you can tell how complicated this lady is, because me and you are just chewing this up, right? My question is that, do you think Anna Wintour also kind of curates the idea that she is that persona in order to have an effect on the magazine and her staff and who she hires and her expectations, right?
I think there's two parts. There's her external persona versus her internal persona.
Right.
I think she has definitely worked to change her external persona over the decades.
Yes.
Which you need to do as societal expectations change. So for many, many years, she was a huge supporter of the fur industry. She would rock up in advance. There would be protests about fur, but she stuck to her guns because that's what she believed in.
Yes.
She now no longer wears fur.
Which was very controversial.
Hugely controversial. So that's kind of external stuff. Internal, I suspect also it's changed. So, for example, it is true that she was often very bad at learning her assistant names.
Right.
Sometimes they did work for months and she didn't bother to learn the name of the second or third assistant.
Yes, I believe that. It's amazing. You know, even seeing her in real life, I'm like, you are that person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But also, she didn't hire a black assistant until 2016.
So a long time.
So,
Yeah.
you know, it was a white inner staff.
I'm not.
But one of her best friends was black. So it's too simple just to go, this is what makes her interesting and complex and contradictory and all that kind of stuff is
Yeah.
one of her best friends was a black man, but then at the same time, she didn't hire a black assistant until 2016.
Yeah, right. And look, I'm not judging her. Well, I am.
You are absolutely judging.
But I'm judging her with the knowledge that I don't know the whole story.
No, and I don't either.
And you don't either. Because she's, as we both know, and our listeners will know, she's very secretive, right? So it's, you just don't, getting to the real person is not necessarily
I think there's
easy.
a distinction between secretive and private.
Oh, I suppose that's true. That was unfair. You're right. Private is the way because,
But there's nothing wrong with being
private.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
going to my friends, I will tell them how my life is going, how I'm coping. We share Christmas. We do Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah.
That's very different from being, and especially when she's such a public figure, she has to work on the assumption that unless it's in a circle and she can trust them, if she tells a person something private, they may tell 50 people.
Yes.
Or it may be leaked to the media.
Well, oh, yeah. Totally.
So you have to be private if you want to protect your inner personal life.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree. And listen, that life, it's very cruel, right?
And like, so she was married, had a couple of kids, had a full-time nanny.
It's so interesting. I find her so interestingly complicated because you will find a lot of people, and quite rightly going, we've so few female chairwomen, CEOs.
Women in power.
And there's so few of them that when you do get one as kind of, you know, legendary as Anna Wintour is, quite rightly, a lot of people go, wow, you know, we need to put her on a pedestal. I mean, this is unique. It really is. Hey folks, it's intermission time.
Make yourself a drink, grab some popcorn, and don't forget to take out your laundry out of the washing machine.
Oh, Mel, I forgot. Hang on.
While Gaz checks on his laundry and I make myself a drink, listeners can use the time to check out our website, realmoviesfakehistory.com, and read more about the stories and history behind the movies.
Oh, I left it in there too long. I'll have to wash it again.
You can also find us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Please subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review on iTunes.
Well, I don't fancy doing laundry again, so maybe we get back to the show.
I want to bring in another character now.
Sure.
Christian.
Ah, yes.
So, played by Simon Baker.
Simon Baker.
He was gorgeous.
And I just want to say, I find it very funny when Simon Baker comes on screen because every single time the movie's in slight danger of being boring, there's no one around.
He's our resident bad boy.
And Andy's on her own. This is oh, there he is. Simon Baker is here. Oh, great. And then she's in Paris and on her own. Oh, Simon Baker, look at that. He's here. It's quite funny how he's a great plot device to just keep everything rolling along.
Now, in the novel, he is also a graduate too. So there isn't that age gap.
Ah. Okay.
Because in the movie, he's an established writer.
Well, that's right. He's like a New Yorker kind of guy, isn't he? He's a writer. He's a writer.
He's a writer. That's his character. Because that's how he's able to get the Harry Potter manuscript is because of his contacts in the writing industry.
Right. No, and I have to say, as a plot device, doing the whole Harry Potter manuscript was brilliant.
Loved it.
Because
so good.
Because you can integrate a very famous book into your book because it's popular at the time, you know. But it's also a great plot device because it's the one thing that will be impossible to get. I mean, Christian's clearly breaking a law somewhere by giving her a copy of that.
Oh, completely.
There's an NDA there, and it's bloody tight.
But the thing that I love about that is Miranda has set a challenge that she thinks is unlikely that Andy can do it.
Yes.
But if Andy can, she knows Andy's a keeper. So she's trying to stretch her.
Yeah.
and give her nearly an impossible challenge. And it's a two-parter, right? Because first it's organising the lunch, which then Miranda goes, what are you doing with that? I'm going out for lunch. Now, when Anna Wintour did have lunch in the office as opposed to going out, she would always have a rare steak and mashed potatoes. You see the steak a number of times in the movie. That's what she did eat.
So that's real. She must be. She seems pretty fit. It's obviously a good diet for her. Never really thought about the steak and mashed potato diet.
Well, she doesn't eat the whole steak. So in real life, she might eat like a third of it.
And they're massive steaks.
Yeah, I don't think they would have been that massive in real life. I think that's just American movies overplaying
it. It's a movie steak, yeah. So Simon Baker, he's very good. He's a bit slimy, of course, as well. But he always seems to know when to come in to just start upsetting the equilibrium of Andy. Because Andy's going, I don't know about him. But also, kind of good-looking guy. There's a lot going on.
I don't think he's slimy as such until you get to the Paris bit.
Right.
Which is a classic business thing. So let's just come to that in a second.
Yeah.
I think he's attracted to her.
He's a player, right? He's a player.
Of course he's a player.
Yeah. So, he's a writer. He's famous. He can quote Gertrude Stein. I mean, this is what these people do.
Yeah.
So
he's absolutely a charmer. But also, he knows how to deliver the goods too. Like when she calls about Harry Potter, he manages to get it.
Right.
Like he's not useless.
No, that's very true.
And that's important because so often these type of characters are useless.
Yeah. Yes,
he's
that's true.
A competent professional.
Yeah.
Unethical, yes.
Yeah.
But
he's impressive.
He's impressive.
Like if you were her and he got you that manuscript, you'd be like, wow. I'm impressed.
This is someone to keep.
Yeah.
Number
100%, because I might need the seventh book that's coming out soon, right? And although I have to say, I find this quite funny. This is a very nerdy, but I did love picking fun at it. Is when she puts the manuscript on the desk, they double space those manuscripts. If that was a later Harry Potter book, that thing would have been huge.
I know.
That would have been like a phone book.
Yeah.
So I just was like, no, that's how Harry Potter
totally I know. It's way too
It's like 200 pages long. I mean, come on. So I thought that was quite funny. So, but I do agree with you that what he does is wildly like into the stratosphere of like favors, I think. And then what I do quite enjoy, I do find
So the question is, why does he do it?
Well, he's attracted to her and he's a player and he's
a risk taker.
I don't really know why he does it, to be honest. I think it's a bit of a too big a risk.
No, but remember, you don't view risk in the same way. So
no,
if someone like him is a huge risk taker.
I don't take any risks.
And so this is the difference. So you're just like, it's too big. But for someone like him, he's like, do you know what? Let's see if we can do this.
Right. Do you enjoy that though? Is that like, so you're attracted to like, it's a risk. I like that. Okay. Because I'm like, no. I'm going to get in trouble. And I could lose my job. My career could be over.
But remember, she is at the precipice where if she doesn't get this, she is going to be sacked.
Okay.
And nor has she had any interviews or had any stories published all year.
Yes.
She is absolutely prepared to take some risks right now.
Oh, and look, he is a great contact because I think he says the editor for the New Yorker's in the party, come in and meet the editor. And if you're a writer, you'd be like, holy moly.
If it wasn't Nate's birthday, she would have gone in.
Yeah. 100%. I'll be honest, I was like, go in.
So was I.
Like,
I was just like, just go in.
Screw it. Like, get over it. It's just one. You got plenty of birthdays, I was thinking this is a huge opportunity. And
that's you taking risks.
Well, yeah, true. But like, yeah, I suppose that is true. It's not as big it's not committing a felony, but it's not bad, is it? It's just upsetting someone on their birthday. But I really did think about that. But there's this funny scene, Mel, she literally goes like, oh, I can't go. And I'm like, you idiot. Oh, God, the New Yorker guy is in there. You should totally go in there. But
I think it's a little unrealistic.
Yeah.
Whether they'd necessarily be living together or not.
Nate and Andy.
Yeah. And I know the production team had a lot of discussion about do we have them living together or not?
Yes, okay.
Because I think it gives them more maturity than probably what her character would have.
I think it's cheaper too. I think it's very pragmatism stuff. I really think they go, well, we've one location. It's not going to ruin...
But normally you just have a housemate.
Yeah.
You're in a share house.
Maybe. But I think part of the attraction of, I agree with you, right? I think
it's a little unrealistic.
I think it's a bit unrealistic, especially when you see how they are together. They feel almost, I don't know, they feel shakier than you think.
But
you know? They're
kids.
Yeah, they're kids. They don't look like they've been living together for...
This is probably the first time, because the odds are they were probably living in separate college dorms, or they might have been in separate share houses.
Yeah, right.
So this could be the first time they're living together.
Right. And so, yeah, you do see them together, and I think they've just decided to do the one location living together thing is because when you have her with a moral dilemma on her shoulders, you can see Nate in the background depressed.
Yeah.
You know, and so it just cut two birds with one stone.
It allows them to have more scenes together.
That's 100%. Like every time she's there, they can do something.
Yeah.
And he can make a grilled cheese sandwich made out of $8 Jarlsberg, you know. You gonna eat that? Yeah. And yeah, so I guess just going back to Simon Baker, you know, what's his name again? Christian, there we go. I just call him Simon Baker, that's his name. And so he turns up and he literally says, hey, I think you owe me, Andy. And you know, you owe me because I gave you essentially the most sought after book in the world and broke many laws, I have no doubt, and jeopardized my entire career. I mean, this would be front page news if this got out.
But see, you're overplaying your hand by giving that bit of the speech.
Yeah, well, you know, that this is, you know, he's like, I really came through for you. And then I found this very funny. Like Andy goes, well, I have done some things as well. So I'm not totally, you know, in your palm of your hand. And I was like, are you kidding? Because
no, that was just them flirting. No, that was them flirting.
I know, but I find it funny how like, I do think I think you kind of owe him, to be honest.
Yeah, but what she's trying to go is like, I have a brain. I thought to call you. We use these contacts. Like it wasn't just, she was not being a damsel in distress is what she's trying to portray. She's a strong, independent woman.
Yes, I got you. Strong, independent woman. No, you must have felt this because, as you said, he's doing a good job wooing her. Very good job. And you know how I know it's a good job? Because they go out, they're in Paris, they have a glass of wine.
They have dinner. It's so romantic.
They have a fancy dinner, definitely very expensive, I've no doubt. And then as they're walking out in Paris, he's kind of wooing her. He's quoting Gertrude Stein. The Paris lights are around them. She's kind of got a couple of glasses of wine, you know. And I just thought to myself, yeah, he's doing good. He's doing a good job. I mean,
but also she wants to be wooed.
Right. Yeah.
Do you know, like, it's not predatory.
No. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's likable.
He is wooing her, but she wants to be wooed.
And he isn't dislikable. I don't think what he does is evil at all.
No.
You know, he's just a very, like, you know, this is what people do. You know, they do these things. And so there is a fantasy to it. You know, you're in Paris and you're getting wooed. It's fine.
And also she's single. They broke up.
That's right, which is very convenient because the minute they're broken up, I think Simon Baker just turns up straight away.
Doesn't know they've broken up. He's at Paris Fashion Week, and the reason why he's at Paris Fashion Week is because of the coup.
I know, but it's all very good. You know, I feel like he just turns up and he looks out and he goes, what about the boyfriend? Oh, that's a shame. You know, it's all, he knows when to come in and pounce, you know. It's very, very good. But he's good. He works well in the movie. I think he has 20 lines of dialogue and they all work.
It's because Simon Baker is so charming.
Yeah.
And he's much more enjoyable to watch than Nate. Like, Nate is hot, but so what?
Well, Nate's the guy from Entourage.
Yes.
Right. But I don't know, he's a cook in the movie.
He's a bit whiny.
But every scene is like him going, oh, you didn't come on my birthday, you know. And I imagine, do you go, shut up? You know?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, that's where Mel sits in that, you know. Because I was kind of going, man, that's mean. She didn't come on his birthday. He should be furious about that. But then when you see him kind of sitting there going, and then you see Simon Baker go, I'm going to introduce you to the editor of the New Yorker. And you're going, God, it's a tough competition around here, isn't it? It's very hard to keep up with all these things. Yeah, it's very, very good. But of course, you know, Simon Baker, he's got some... There's like another plot. There's like not even a B plot. It's like a C plot in the far off background where Miranda and... you know, Christian there's some...
It's not Miranda and Christian, it's Jacqueline.
Right.
From, it's Europe runway or France runway, I can't remember.
Right. One of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And basically the idea is Jacqueline is younger and she does what Miranda does cheaper. So it's a classic little bit of a coup. How do we knock Miranda off?
And Miranda, of course, hates her the minute she sees her to foreshadow all of
at the
this.
Met Gala. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And Emily's very sick, which is another of those wonderful emotions that Emily Blunt gets to do, where she does sick very well, a lot of coughing.
And then she gets hit by the car.
Oh, that's
and
harsh.
The scarves flow up in the air. It's brilliant.
That's very harsh. I thought that was brutal. I mean, that's a screenwriter thing where you're going, God, I need to only allow Andy to go to Paris. How do I sort this out? I know I'll knock over the other one with a car. And she goes to hospital and she's all bruised up and she's very upset. She wants going to Paris.
It's been her dream all year.
Is her dream. And you know how I know it's her dream? Is because the background of her iMac has got a picture of the Arc de Triomphe on it. And I know that. And then when you go to the other iMac, it's got like a flower on
Generic
it. And you're
Windows
like,
package.
Andy doesn't care about Paris. That's how I know. It's all on the sets.
Question for you. Do you really think a junior assistant gets to go overseas to a big event like Paris Fashion Week?
I never sat there and criticised that a great deal, but I agree with you. I know from big industry, they don't pay for anything that they don't need to pay for.
No. Junior assistants are not going.
Okay.
So the way in the commentary of the movie, the directors and the producers were talking about for these big events, they get assistant support in the relevant country because they've got the local magazine who can provide that.
Oh, I see.
And of course, assistants don't go. It's editors and senior editors that go who actually need to be there to see the clothes.
Got you.
What does an assistant need to do to see the clothes? It's great for the purpose of the movie.
It's great as a reward. And what's quite clever about the movie is that early on it says, we're going to Paris because they do that stuff. I think Emily Blunt in the first 10 minutes says, I'm going to Paris. And so you as the audience are going, hey, we're going to go to Paris. This is great. I can't wait.
Which is huge because they make no money. So the idea is, like this is a team where Andy gets 10 minutes for lunch and Emily Blunt gets 20 minutes for lunch.
Right.
They're workaholics. They get paid really badly.
Yeah.
They can't afford to go to Paris with their friends or family.
Yeah.
So the only way they get to do something as wonderful as this is through work, which is why she's so excited.
I will say this, right? There is a scene, and I did laugh a little at this. There's a scene where Andy goes to dinner with her dad, right? And you're going, oh, Andy's having such a tough time, you know? She's struggling in the big city. It's really tough. And then they're like total upper middle class
white
dad.
privileged family.
Yeah. They sit down for a dinner and, you know, I don't know if you could do this today because you just go, come on. But the dad sits there and goes, listen, take this. And she looks at it.
But you think that doesn't happen today?
Oh, it does.
Exactly.
It does. But I'm saying for a likability level, right? Like, I just think...
No, this is how this works.
I know, but I do think at a writing level, you go like, oh God. So she gets a check from her dad and he's like, look, I'm really worried about you paying your rent. And she's like, oh, that's awful nice. Thanks, Dad. And you're like, wow, you know, she's okay. I think she'll be fine.
Of course she'll be fine. She's a white privileged woman.
Yeah. And she's kind of working like in Runway, like, this is my big chance. If I don't if I don't keep this job, I'm going to starve to death. And I'm kind of seeing that and going, no, actually the stakes are quite low. She'll be good because she's got Stanford Law as a backup. You know, I was kind of going like, you'll be okay. You'll be fine. Your dad's giving you checks for rent. You know what I mean? Like the stakes are not high. It's totally okay.
In her mind, they are, and that's the bit you have to understand.
Well, that's right.
In this privileged world, it matters.
I convinced myself of that later.
Okay.
But that scene, I was sitting there going, look, it's okay. You be good. Everything's going to turn out great. And but you know what? We get to go to Paris, and it's great. And I got to tell you, you know, even if this film's not flying on all cylinders, when you hear U2's song,
it's a great song.
And you see Paris coming up and you've been trapped in that bloody office for, you know, I don't know, an hour at this point, and you go, oh, thank God, we're getting out now. Now we're kicking. They're hitting, you know, fire's coming out now.
And it looks gorgeous.
Oh, it's so good.
Now, a lot of that's not actually Paris because they were only in Paris for 2 days.
That's right.
And Meryl Streep didn't go.
That's right. Because they couldn't afford it.
No.
And the film is very cheap in the wide scope of, like, you know, Hollywood movies. And you're totally right. And there's a lot of, you know, that's why Meryl Streep spends most of Paris indoors or in a hotel room or in a car because she wasn't there.
Yeah.
But they did get the other ladies there, which is why when you see Anne Hathaway in front of the fountain, you're like, oh, that is really in Paris.
And Simon Baker got there too because they had that kiss.
That's right. So, but it's so important for the movie. Do you know, like that was very late in the movie when they actually said to them, you can go to Paris. Like, that was really late. You know, they really didn't, like, they were still 50-50 about, like, do we bring the crew over there? Do we even do they got the budget was slightly increased in this movie to get them to Paris, but it's so essential.
It's worth every penny.
Because the whole point is that you're trapped in the office for so long. And then the movie just goes, wow, I can breathe. Look at this scale. You got the city and the lights and stuff. And you're relieved to get out of that, like, claustrophobic set.
See, I think I viewed it quite differently, because I didn't view that we'd been stuck in an office for an hour, because we had been in some incredible restaurants. We've been to Times Square. We've been to the Met Gala. We've been running to pick up a dog and scarves and skirts. Like, I didn't get that same sense. What I got is this movie has been about New York, but now we get to romanticize it and say we are going to Paris.
And this is interesting. You know, the movie is critical of the fashion industry, as we've talked about, to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. How critical, I don't know.
And bear in mind, it's not a documentary.
Yeah.
It's a movie that is meant to be a fantasy. So it's not going to be throwing punches. So, for example, it doesn't look at, like, the sustainability of fabrics and throwaway fashion and all that, because that's not what this movie is about.
No. They deleted the scene where Emily goes to that sweatshop. You know, that's totally deleted.
In Bangladesh, yeah.
It really brought the mood down. And but you're right. And so, but what's fascinating is that, you know, making this movie was a complicated process because of this reason. Because if you're making a movie about the fashion industry that's kind of criticizing part of the fashion industry, or at least satirizing it, depending on where you stand, you're not going to get buy-in from the industry either. So, as you know, like Anna Wintour and Vogue, like, they were, when they heard about the movie getting made, they weren't, like, massively happy about that at all. I mean, they were thinking that we really want, you know, our magazine being represented in this way.
They were anxious, but at the same time, Anna Wintour did go to the premiere.
That's true.
And wore Prada.
That is true.
And without this movie, the September issue doesn't get made.
And did you hear what Anna Wintour said at the premiere?
No. What'd she say?
So the premiere was in New York, as it should be, and she was wearing Prada. Anna Wintour's friend, who is Barbara Emile, she reported that Anna Wintour said shortly afterward that the movie would go straight to DVD. That's how crap that movie was. Which you gotta love. I mean, that is... You go to the big premiere and it's the stars are there.
But maybe that's what she wanted at the time, because she didn't want people to see it. She's now on board with The Devil Wears Prada.
She is. And this is why she's quite interesting in a way, because she totally was like, this is trash. Absolute trash. Now, she would never admit this, but I'm very sure that's what she said. And then, you know, straight to DVD, it's going to be $1.99 at Walmart. And then it comes out. It's not just a sleeper hit. It's one of the biggest hits of 2006. It becomes very iconic because there's not many movies represent the fashion industry in that, as you said, in that fantasy way. It's like a big thing.
It's more than that. It's also a movie about women who are just chasing boys.
Right.
Like, it's a movie about professional women in an interesting industry.
Oh, yeah.
And it's about work and ambition and career and personal excellence. Normally when you have a movie about women, it's about their love lives.
Oh.
And I think that's part of the reason it is so successful, is because it's showing women as so much more three-dimensional.
Totally agree. And that's one of the reasons Streep was really into the movie, because I think she read the movie and she goes, I don't read scripts like this. Yep. 3 main characters, all women, all with relationships, all with complexity to a certain extent. And the men, and as I said, I think traditionally in a very male-dominated movie, the roles are reversed, you know, because in a normal movie from 40 years ago, all the men would be the main characters, and then all of the surrounding models and stuff, they would all be, you know, the women.
Not even 40 years ago, like still today.
Yeah, true. That's actually true. Could you? I can't really name you another movie.
Indiana Jones had really like 2 women and that's it. Like we're talking about recent movies that still don't have female representation seriously in them.
Yeah, 100%. And specifically, though, women as leads interacting with each other without men getting in the way. You know, with actually a
passing
relationship.
The Bechdel test.
Yeah, exactly. Which this movie does with aplomb. I will say, David Frankel, the director of the movie, He's come out and he said that he believes that although Anna Wintour in recent years has kind of warmed up to The Devil Wears Prada, has kind of said, oh, it's pretty good. And I think in a way, at a PR level, someone said to Anna Wintour, look, this movie's kind of a big deal.
Get on board.
If you kind of embrace it, the public's going to kind of dig you, right? That's kind of the thing. It's,
and that's what happened.
And that's what happened. And so she's kind of begrudgingly went, okay. And so she's kind of come out and tried to do the PR campaign of saying, I kind of like the movie, which I don't believe. But David Frankel has said he kind of got the truth of this a while ago because he actually met Anna Wintour at a tennis tournament in Miami.
She takes her tennis very seriously.
Does she? Right, okay, I didn't know that.
She plays every day.
Well, there you go. She must have been quite good. I guess this is the thing, Mel. When me and you don't make movies like The Devil Wears Prada, we don't get to go to tennis tournaments in Miami. This is what the elite people do. And so David Frankel goes to the tennis tournament and he meets Anna Wintour. Anna Wintour, as you could expect, has no idea who he is. Because, why would you know, right?
Even though they were both at the same premiere.
Right. And I think he sat behind her or something, but she has no idea who he is, right? And so David Frankel introduces himself and she's like, oh, okay, hello. And he goes, oh, you should know I'm the person that directed the movie that's inspired by you, The Devil Wears Prada. And as he was saying this, she was shaking his hand. And once he told her what he did, she pulled her hand away.
Yeah.
And basically didn't speak to him. And so you just went, oh, okay, she's still...
She's allowed to not like it.
True. Yeah, it's not illegal.
No.
You can't put her in prison for it.
She doesn't have to like it.
And if it was me, I wouldn't like it either because I'd come across terrible at it.
But also, it's very personal.
Yeah.
And as someone who likes their privacy...
Yeah.
And has never really asked to be in the limelight in that way... would find having a movie made about your personal and business life abhorrent.
And again, Anna Wintour doesn't want to be a public figure, I think, at all. At least
I don't think that's quite true. I think she's happy. She's always been doing a lot of fundraising and all that sort of stuff. But there's a difference between being a professional public figure,
right,
and a public figure where the public thinks they have a right to know about the inner workings of your life.
Right. And I guess why would I put it? I don't think she's very good at it, is maybe how I would put it. Because she was on Letterman, for example. I already said that. She was doing the talk show round. She was on Letterman. Letterman asks her all these scripted questions. But he's very ironic, Letterman. He's always poking fun at the guests. But as he's asking her these relatively scripted questions, her eye line is always away from him. And she's looking off camera. And she's reading something. So it's almost as if she's being asked questions and on Letterman, she's literally reading the answer.
So I would actually say I've seen her when she went to the Oxford Union.
Right.
So it's kind of like a public town hall forum filled with Oxford students.
Right.
She's fantastic.
Okay.
And she's absolutely off script. I suspect she was incredibly nervous about doing something like that TV show where she is being judged and they might poke fun at her, they might trick her.
And Letterman's very like that.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
But the Oxford Union is asking real, genuine, tough questions like, how do you get in the industry? Do you think the industry is healthy? Real questions.
Yes.
It's not positive PR rubbish.
No.
But they're not trying to trick her.
Yeah.
Or get one up on her. It's a fair game.
I suppose that's true.
And so I'm not surprised she hated it.
I would agree that Letterman
That's horrible.
Letterman doesn't always play a fair game. I would totally agree with that.
I'm surprised she agreed to do it.
I am totally true. And look, if I was her assistant, I would have said don't do it because she didn't come off great. And that's not necessarily her fault. It's a difficult situation.
And sometimes you're better off just not being present than doing it and doing it badly.
Yeah. I think you've got a fair point. I wondered when they made the September issue, because the September issue was made in 2007's edition. And I always felt that, is that movie a response to The Devil Wears Prada? A response to, I want to have a say in what this is doing.
I think it's partly a response, but I think it's also partly an attempt to get it back about the magazine.
Yeah.
And it is about Anna. I'm not going to say it's not, but a lot of it is about Grace.
A lot of it is about her. Don't want to speculate too much, but I do wonder if you just start making a movie, a documentary, you're filming everything. It's all about the September issue. You're thinking, wow, this is Anna Wintour, inside story. I mean, very quickly you go, Grace is kind of the best person to make a documentary about. Because Anna Wintour, you can even tell she's very closed, even in that documentary, which is fine.
But also, a lot of what she does is goes to budget meetings and HR meetings and that kind of stuff, which is not interesting for a documentary.
Totally.
As in, Grace is going to locations and clothes and talking to models and editing. Like, visually, that's more interesting.
Totally. It's so, and to hear someone talk about it, you're like, oh, that's what the glamour is, isn't it? Right? It's not totally glamorous.
And because it's meant to be about the magazine and not about Anna, it makes sense to focus on her.
Yeah, got you. There is a point. I mean, you go, that's rough. I mean, there's a point where like Anna Wintour's looking at pictures and she sees a picture of Jennifer Garner, and she looks at it and she's like, she looks pregnant, and then she goes, can we? And then the assistant goes, you want me to fix it? And she's like, yeah, fix it. And then they correct Sienna Miller's teeth, And so there's all this stuff, and I just feel,
that's what Anna believes.
It's brutal. Like she's just.
It is, but that's the culture she has created in global fashion. Now that is deeply problematic.
Totally.
And you would go, that is a side of Anna where I think she has used her power for bad.
Yes, that is very, very true.
Now I want to talk about the costuming.
Oh yes, let's do it.
Because the official costuming budget for this movie was $100,000.
Yes.
But due to the Field, who was the designer's ability to call in favors with friends in all the design houses,
right.
They actually think it cost about it was $1 million worth of clothing.
Right.
So it didn't cost $1 million, but it was $1 million worth of clothing.
Wow.
And they had one piece of jewelry that was worth $100,000 alone. It was a necklace that Meryl Streep wore.
Now that's expensive. Yeah, that's a lot of money.
They got it on loan for a day or a couple of days, and then you return it.
Which I know even some celebrities have done, where they get like a giant...
That's what they do for the Oscars.
Yeah.
They loan the jewellery.
Yeah, because it's promotion.
But also you're allowed, in a movie like this, you're going to absolutely have product placement from the fashion houses.
Yeah.
They want to be in this. So, for example, when Andy has that transformation from regular clothes to high-end fashion and she comes into the office and she looks amazing.
Yes.
She's in head-to-toe Chanel.
And that's like that school uniform-y thing.
Absolutely. She's in the uniform.
Yes.
Now, Chanel was very keen to be part of this because so many people, when you hear Chanel, what do you think?
Perfume.
Okay. When you think thick.
That didn't work at all.
No. I'm asking the wrong person.
So repeat that for me.
When you think of fashion in Chanel,
right.
What do you think of?
Handbags.
Right.
I tell you what do you want me to say?
So,
well, no, just say, what do you want me to say? We can do this and I'll edit it in.
Okay. So what I want you to say is suits for middle-aged women.
Okay, so say it again then.
When you think of fashion at Chanel, what do you think of?
Suits for middle-aged women.
And the key about this is Chanel wanted to make their brand appear more younger, spunkier, a bit more hip.
Oh, I got you. Right.
And so they loved the fact that Anne Hathaway, for most of the film, plus post her transition, wore Chanel.
Got you. Okay, I understand.
Because it doesn't look middle-aged and frumpy.
Yeah.
It looks sexy and exciting and glamorous and gorgeous.
I know. It's amazing if you put something on Anne Hathaway, it looks good.
No, but they didn't put her in a standard Chanel suit.
Right.
Is the point.
Got you.
Like she's wearing leather pants and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, that's good. I'm so glad we got through that bit about me not knowing a damn thing about Chanel. Oh, that's funny. I've never seen Mel just go, oh, for God's sake. Yeah, you're right. There is a advertising opportunity here that these people were never going to let up. I mean,
no.
And Prada was proper in the movie too, I think, even though it's in the title.
So Prada, most of the shoes that Meryl Streep wears are from Prada.
Yes, got you.
Now, what's interesting is in the filming of the movie, Meryl Streep and Emily Blunt basically didn't wear the shoes unless there was a shot that required the shoes.
I see.
They would wear flat, comfortable shoes.
Right.
But Anne Hathaway committed to wearing the shoes in every scene.
Oh, wow. Well done.
I was just like, I'm shocked you didn't break an ankle.
Yeah, that's a fair play to her. Dedication. That's method acting, Mel.
It is.
Always wear the shoes.
But I admire that Meryl Streep is like, nah.
Yeah.
I can do method acting without being in agony.
That's true. And she has some funny stories, Meryl Streep, because she was the cold one of the movie, She stayed away from all the girls. She was far away.
And the cast and the crew.
Yeah, to try and keep that, every time she'd walk on set, you wouldn't have seen her that day. So she's like, oh, she's intimidating and stuff. But I think she kind of said, she could hear all the fun everyone was having while she was kind of sulking in her trailer waiting to do the Ice Queen, And so I did go, oh yeah, that's a tough shoot, really, isn't it? To have to, I would give up after a day and just be like, yeah, you know what?
But you're not Meryl Streep.
But that's why I'm not Meryl Streep. One of many reasons, actually, why I'm not Meryl Streep, but that is one of them. And yeah, it's very good. But you're right. So the costume designer is Patricia Field, I think her name is. Now, the cinematographer and the costume designer and David Frankel, the director, they're all Sex and the City alumni. And but it works well because I think, as Patricia Field said, when you're kind of costuming high couture fashion in a movie, it's kind of different from doing it in real life. So she said that what's interesting is that, you can kind of choose what you think is high-end fashion on the streets, in real life, and you'd pick something. But when you're in a movie, you almost need it to sing on camera. So it's kind of a different thing. It's quite interesting how you have to decide what someone wears, not because that's what someone would wear. It's what makes sense on camera, what looks good on camera, what stands out from the background on camera, what makes you different from her who's standing next to you on camera. There's all these things you got to think about.
But also, especially the Met Gala scene, what is very clear is Emily and Andy don't outdress the guests or Miranda.
Yeah,
they look
right.
gorgeous, but their outfits are incredibly pared back.
Okay.
So remember, this is where that uniform logic comes in.
Yeah.
They are wearing the uniform. They're in black tie, gorgeous gowns, but they are not there to outshine the guests and Miranda.
That's interesting because you can look good, but you can't look too good.
Well, no, you can look amazing. So by that I mean the outfit fits properly. It's flattering, but also it's not too scandalous. So they would never be in dresses with thigh-high slits.
Right. That's fascinating.
Because they're there to represent Miranda, not to kind of pull focus.
Yeah. And again, when you're choosing the costumes, you have to kind of get that psychology, right?
As in often in the Sex and the City scenes, those girls are the leads. So you want the focus to be on them. So you're allowed to go a little more flamboyant.
Yeah. It's so interesting. And even Frankel said that when you're directing a movie like The Devil Wears Prada, you have to think, how do I show... Because you have to show their feet at some points. There's whole movies, Mel, where you never see what shoes someone's wearing.
Most movies.
Yeah, because they're always cutting you off in mid-shot.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. You could wear anything, right? So most of the time they're wearing Uggs. You don't know. But like in this movie, because of the nature of it being a fashion movie and shoes are part of the package, Frankel's going, I need to shoot this and I need to show feet occasionally. Which is
not just occasionally, a fair bit.
Yeah, so it's fascinating to hear a director go, I need to think about how do I do that? Like I need to do full shots.
Coming out of the car was a great one.
That's one, yeah.
Because you put the shoes touching the ground.
There's a lot of that, and there is when you see people, in the background, they're full shots, so you see the full figure. And so you're always trying to figure out ways to, do all of this and get it done. I have a good bit of trivia, I should say, though, and this is quite unusual, which is why I think it's worth bringing up. Is that they shot the whole movie and Emily Blunt's character, Emily, her character was supposed to end in the hospital bruised up. Mm-hmm. That was the end of her character. And then, because they didn't have a big budget for this movie, so they didn't shoot anything else. And that she's in the hospital, Anne Hathaway goes to Paris, comes back, kisses Nate, and then everything's all good. And that's the end of the movie. And then the studio...
Which feels unrealistic.
Well, yeah, it does a bit, actually. That the whole repairing their relationship doesn't feel...
Which is why they don't really in the movie.
They're not 100%. Yeah, it's suggested, but they're not together.
But you're also not even sure if it will be because he's moving to Boston and she's going to stay in New York.
Well, she has a job interview or something that day or something. So you go, I don't think it's going to work. But Simon Baker's going to return any minute. And so... Mel's like, come on, get him back. I want one more Simon Baker.
No, she hates him right now.
Yeah, she likes it. It's fine.
Of course,
he'll be back.
Especially now that Miranda has kept the job.
The new Harry Potter's coming out. She'll call. She will call. But the studio 20th Century Fox, they watched the movie. They got the screening and the executives were so blown away by Emily Blunt that they paid extra money to put in the scene at the end that kind of ties her character off.
And it's a great little scene.
It is nice, you know, and you need it, right? Just makes the movie just breathe a bit.
Because you've fallen in love with Emily Blunt in this movie.
And she's been cruelly beaten up in the movie. It's nice.
Oh, and she's still in crutches in that scene.
Yeah, you know, she's had a torrid time, you know. She's been sick, and then she forgot the name, and then Miranda's taking it out on her, and then, oh my God, it just keeps going. And
what I love is also, it's a sign that Andy is moving on. She's giving back the clothes.
Right.
Which I think is partly a gesture to go, I'm sorry I stole Paris from you.
Yes, right. Do you think, would you have given back the clothes? No. I think that's why it was so silly. Why did I even ask? Why is it, you're getting nothing. Nada, right? You'd be lucky if you get a card that says get well.
You might give her a scarf or something.
Oh, that's what a charity.
But also, I don't understand all this loyalty to Emily. Emily treats Andy horribly.
Oh, terribly.
I'm sorry.
And also, it's not like they get friendlier. I mean, they do kind of.
No, not at all.
But like, there's a few moments where you're like, oh, I can see, you know, maybe they're developing stuff. And then they don't, right?
No, they just don't. And also that feels like the real professional world where there are some people you don't become friends with.
Yeah, you just go, yeah.
And so I don't understand why she feels all this guilt about going to Paris instead of Emily.
Yes.
It's like, really?
Yeah.
I'm not convinced by that.
You wanted to go to Paris. Don't give me that.
It's not just that. I just don't think she has any loyalty to Emily.
Yeah, I think so too. But she feels awful about calling her and saying you're not going to Paris.
Oh, because that's Miranda being soft. Miranda should have done it.
Yeah.
But again, Miranda is testing Andy to go, do you have the backbone to make tough calls and have tough conversations with people? Because she's thinking at this stage, I want her on my team for the next decade. Can she do the things I need her to do? And that is having those awful conversations with people, like sacking them, saying they're underperforming, you know, budget cuts, etc. So I just think it's a good old-fashioned test. Yeah.
Her real trigger point of like leaving is when Miranda goes, you're just like me. We're the same. And then she's like, oh God, I'm leaving now. And then you have that scene where, you know, Meryl Streep's just like, where's my assistant? Where someone could be calling me, you know? And then she takes the phone and she throws the phone.
Not to be done at home just for littering purposes.
That's true. If you go to Paris and throw a phone in the phone, you could be arrested.
Just like throw the phone in the bin. Or more importantly, take it to one of those recycling stations so they can deal with it properly.
Which, I mean, that would not have been as dramatic, I must say.
Now, they cleaned the fountain for that shot. Oh, so it would look that amazing.
Yeah, that's funny. Because the Parisians, they need their city to look good on camera. And then I have to say, when she does leave Paris, part of me is sad that I'm no longer in Paris. You know, I'm going, oh God, now I'm in New York again. But and then, you know, she makes up with Nate and everything goes by. And then the film really does end, though, with Andy walking past the runway building, and she kind of sees Miranda getting into her car, her Mercedes, and then she gives her like a wave, like, how you going? And then, of course, are we going to get a wave back? Of
course we're not.
No, we're not going to get no.
But also, a key part of that scene is Andy fluffs her fringe.
Oh.
And I think when Miranda looks at her, she looks at her, but she also knows I've had an impact and I've changed you for the rest of your life.
Oh, I didn't even notice that, actually. Fascinating. So
and she's wearing a much smarter leather jacket that fits.
Yes. And then Meryl Streep, of course, allows a very wry smile in the car, and you're like, And then, of course, she's like, go. So where do you sit now in this movie in terms of quality? Like, as it is, it's very up and down. It's a fascinating movie. The fantasy's great. The fashion, very good. But, you know, how comfortable do you feel with it now we're getting 20 years later?
I really enjoy the movie.
Yeah.
And I try, when I watch movies, is to judge it for when it was made at its time. I'm not a big fan of judging things, especially when they get 30, 40, 50 years old, to be judging them by a 2023 point of view. I don't think that's fair.
Like the modern lens. Very good.
But that doesn't mean we can't critique it and go, this is why it's problematic today. But I try, when you're watching it, to appreciate it for when it was made at its time. Box office?
Let's do it, Mel. let's do the box office. That's right. We haven't done 2006 as a box office list so far. So we're going to be doing the top, well, I'm going to do the top 20, but we're going to run through it a bit. Top 20 movies, highest grossing worldwide for 2006. So The Devil Wears Prada had a budget of $35 million. Very cheap movie. I think that was the original budget. I think they added a few million on the end.
Okay.
Just to get you through Paris. That was $1 million to get Simon Baker on the plane. But it was a comparatively very cheap movie. So, but I'm going to throw out a few of these movies, Mel, because I have a feeling you're going to know some of these. Night of the Museum.
Love it.
Comes up. Number 17 at $115 million. $115 million. 20th Century Fox. So, yeah.
It's clever.
I think building in the history, I think it was quite good. Your parents would have loved it because you've got a bit of history in the movie as well, but you've also got the comedy and the hijinks.
And you know I'm no big fan of Ben Stiller, but I love how it exposes people to American history, Roman history.
Right.
Neanderthals, like that to me is cool.
Yeah, right. And you can blend the history together from different eras. I mean, it was a very high concept story. So yeah, that did very well. Spawned 2 other sequels, if I remember right.
Yes.
Up at number 15 is The Departed, which is Martin Scorsese's movie about Boston gangsters. Jack Nicholson, very, very good movie, but did $120 million.
I saw that at the cinema.
It's a good movie.
It's a bit of boys' fantasy, but sure.
A lot of people get shot in that movie. There's a lot of shooting.
A lot of drugs.
A lot of drugs, that's right. I think, I remember at the end going, God, I think everyone is dead. I think everyone is not alive.
Well, both Matt Damon and Leo are dead.
Yeah, they're like all the main characters. I think Mark Wahlberg might be the only one that survives. The only movie I think I like Mark Wahlberg in, I think, I'm sorry to say, I think the rest of it is a bit of actually Boogie Nights is okay. But like everything else, not particularly good. Number 13 is Borat.
Do you know I've never seen it?
Wow, that's a big one. Look, it's not perfect, but it was such a gigantic cultural time for that movie. I mean, it's still very good. The stunt comedy thing is a little naughties to me now. It feels quite aged. But boy, it was one of the best movies that did stunt comedy. It was quite outrageous. But actually, I'll go back one step. Number 14 is our movie, The Devil Wears Prada, 14th highest grossing movie worldwide for 2006. $124 million on a $35 to $40 million budget.
That's excellent.
Did very well. And listen, this is the era of DVD, man. And this thing...
People bought DVDs.
Oh, like everybody. Like I went to a couple of houses. They have this movie in their collection. So it feels like if you were buying stuff around that time, this was like a must-have DVD. I have to say though, Mel, the DVD commentary is one of the most boring commentaries.
It's rubbish.
It is so terrible.
I think partly because there's too many people in the room.
So many. Like, I talk about insight, you know, one of the things they say is like, oh, so we shot this in Paris. And I'm like, yeah, I know
that.
I know that. You know how I know that? It's because I've got eyes. That's how it's a film. You know what I mean? It's visual. That's how that works. What stunning commentary this is. You know, put them on the radio. So number 12, Mission Impossible 3. Tom Cruise.
Which one's the hat?
Oh, which one indeed?
So it's not Sydney, that's 2.
It's the one where they go, we need him to be married because there's no stakes anymore. So he's married and then his wife gets kidnapped and then that's the whole thing. Philip Seymour Hoffman is in this one. Do you remember that one?
Is that the one where she's in Tibet, or is that a later one when they're no longer together and she's hiding?
That's a later one.
Right.
But it starts here.
Okay, right. I don't think I've seen number 3.
No, that's okay. No worries. No, the one you're talking about is Fallout, which is quite good. Tom Cruise doing stuff that you like. I would never do that. That's crazy. Why would you? That's very unsafe.
But that's the whole point of seeing a Tom Cruise movie.
He's going to put someone's eye out doing that. It's not good. So $134 million, very successful. Philip Seymour Hoffman's very good. I have a fun story about this movie. Is that I went to the cinema a lot during this time, and they had Mission Impossible 3 playing on different screens at different times, half an hour apart. That's how popular the movie was. And so I went to I thought I was in one screen, but I went to the other one instead. and I walked in and I saw the end of the movie. Because I was late. I thought, I missed a few minutes of it. That's okay, I'll go in. And so I went in. The movie ends 5 minutes later. I seen the whole resolution of the movie. My movie then started 5 minutes later. So I went in to see the movie going, I've already seen the end. Yeah, very funny. So we'll go up a bit. Number 9. Oh, actually, I started number 10. Number 10, Talladega Nights. Your favorite actor, Mel. Will Ferrell. I know you love Will Ferrell. Eye roll, So Will Ferrell is at the peak of his fame, $148 million. And I know you love Will Ferrell and you also love cars. So he was doing like a car racer movie with this one where he played a NASCAR driver.
Sure.
Yeah, you love it. Watch that tonight.
Yeah, totally seen it 10 times.
That's it. And so that made a good bit amount of money now for Will Ferrell. Number 9, now we're talking Casino Royale.
The first Daniel Craig James Bond movie.
Which was, and I have to say, it's amazing how I thought this movie...
It was only 9.
I know, I thought that too, because now the movie's...
So iconic.
Yeah, like they make $1 billion. I think Skyfall made $1 billion.
Yes, but I think that was the first one to make $1 billion.
But this being said, this is the calendar year. So it came out November 17th, so by the end of the year, it had made $153 million worldwide.
Right, so it made way more than that.
But it's just surprising.
Because it was still on the next year.
It was. But I still was surprised actually how little it made. It made a lot, but you're right. Like it's later when the Craig movies are just ginormous moneymakers.
The other thing is, I don't know for 2006 whether it was released globally at the same time.
Right.
Because some of those movies, it's staggered.
Yes.
Which also affects the box office if it maybe didn't go out for some countries until December.
Part of that too. I mean, this movie really was, it had long legs, as they say in Hollywood. It kept bringing in money. My God, though, what a good movie, though.
It's great.
Very good.
Brilliant.
So that made that. Number 8, Over the Hedge. It's an animated movie from DreamWorks Animation. Made $155 million. I seen this in the cinema. I probably seen it after I seen that Mission Impossible 3 debacle. And it was actually a very warm-hearted, silly movie about animals in the garden kind of thing. It was good.
Nice one.
It was all right. I thought it was all right. I think Bruce Willis does one of the voices. Number 7, Happy Feet.
It's an Australian movie.
An Australian movie. Australian director. It is from the director of Mad Max. They didn't put that in the poster. But yeah, can I confess something to you? I've never seen Happy Feet.
Me neither.
Okay. So they made another one. I know that, but I've never seen it. Visually, I always thought it was a little unappealing.
Agreed.
But
people love it.
I just think the penguins look so realistic that they don't have emotion. I don't know why I think that. I'm totally criticizing a movie I've never seen. Okay, number 6. Ice Age.
Number 1?
Number 6. And we're back. No, I don't know which one this is. There's so many Ice Ages. Yeah. I just don't know. It's called Ice Age The Meltdown, which I think is...
That's not the first one.
No, maybe the second one?
Because I've seen, I think, number 2.
Okay.
And that is, as you can imagine, the ice melting.
Okay, well, maybe you've seen this one. This might be the first time you've seen it and I've not, It's absolutely... No, you can tell me if it's any good or not. The only thing I know about the Ice Age movies is that they did that one joke with the squirrel and the acorn for I don't know, 7 movies.
I don't love it. But when I watched it with my little cousins...
Oh, yeah.
They love it.
Really? They're into it?
Oh, they think it's fantastic.
Oh, yeah, but this is the audience. And they made so many. I mean, they must have made money. So Ice Age Meltdown, I mean, we're talking $195 million. Number 5, Superman Returns.
So who's playing this Superman?
Now, if I remember right, and it's not easy to remember this, I think it's Brandon Routh.
Don't remember him as Superman. So this is before Henry Cavill.
This is way before him. I don't know what age Henry Cavill was, but he wasn't as thick as he is now. He wasn't as brawny. This was quite a while ago. Brandon Routh was a real... Because Superman, when they did Christopher Reeve, I think, he wasn't very famous at all. And so they picked a kind of unknown, which was Routh.
Same logic.
And he had he looked, I guess, like Superman is supposed to look. And they did the movie directed by Bryan Singer and starring Kevin Spacey. Can't talk about him anymore. And so he does Lex Luthor. And yeah, I remember seeing it in Dublin with a whole bunch of friends, and we all universally came out and went, "That was expensive looking." You know, that was essentially
That good.
That good. Yeah, it was a bit. Yeah, Bryan Singer. I'm very mixed on him, but you haven't seen it? No, that's okay. Have you seen any Supermans? You got a feeling about him, or any which way?
I used to like the TV show when I was in primary school. The
yes.
Dean Cain one.
Oh, yeah.
Loved it.
Was that? Yes.
Terry Hatcher. She played Lois Lane.
I was very into Terry Hatcher, and she is beautiful.
And Dean Cain is hot.
Yeah, he has the looks for Superman, doesn't he? Yeah. They were a good-looking couple,
They were
weren't they?
fantastic, and they had good chemistry. Really enjoyed that.
Well, I forget what that show was called. What was that called?
Superman.
Just Superman, okay.
It might have been The Adventures of Superman, I'm pretty sure it was Superman. And so in Australia, it was on at like 7:30 on a Saturday night.
Hilarious.
And my brother and I, we were young. We just thought it was fantastic.
This is the greatest thing I've ever seen. That's very good. Oh, I like that. That's a good. God, those days were the best. But there we go. But yeah, Superman Returns, I wouldn't bother watching it. It's interesting. It's expensive. So there we go. Number 4. Boy, this movie's older than I thought. The Da Vinci Code.
That's the first one they made.
The Tom Hanks one.
Yes.
Yeah, with Tom Hanks and...
also in Paris.
Also in Paris. That's true. A slightly crapper Paris movie, but also in Paris.
Oh, the shots of the Louvre look fantastic.
Oh, it looks good. Oh, we agree on this. It's just everything else.
It's not great.
It's not a good movie at all. I love movies where they have to stop the movie in the middle of it just to explain what the hell is going on. Because I think the purpose of Ian McKellen is just to go, listen, here's the plot. And that's essentially what...
His character is also in the book.
It's like half an hour of talking of like explaining the plot. I'm like, good God, is there anything visual in this movie? Or are they just going to... And I love the ending. The ending's terrible. The ending is him like...
In Scotland.
Aye, but it's a race against time to get to a church where nothing happens, you know?
The world does not end when she discovers her destiny.
And you're like, that's it? That's
and
it?
We all went and saw it.
We did. No, we did. I can't say it was worth it, but we did go see it. So Da Vinci Code did very well, though. That was the Dan Brown, the peak of the hype, $217 million. And they made a few others, and they were as...
They've made a number of others.
Yeah, they made Angels and Demons.
Which is a better one.
And it was also very stupid, but there we go. But
again, the shots of the Vatican are phenomenal.
And I will say that's a selling point, right? If you're going to make a movie in the Vatican, I mean, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
You know, that's the catacombs and the weird things in there. It's kind of fun.
There's one that starts off in Florence and ends in Istanbul. That's very good.
Is that Inferno was the other one?
I think so.
I think Inferno, where like the bad guy dies at the beginning, and then the rest of the movie is like the debris the bad guy has
how
left.
do you prevent the world from ending?
Right, which is the same in all of them.
The thing is, for me, I think part of the reason why I indulge these movies is I love watching the locations.
Oh, I know you do, actually.
Like, that's really why I watch these movies.
And I knew you would like that because you just go, look at that church. Oh, God, it's huge, you know.
Yeah.
And I do like that. I like, a character going into a church and going, there's a secret door in here somewhere. And that's why I like the National Treasure movies.
I love the National Treasure movies.
Yeah, me too.
For the exact same
They're
reason.
terrible movies.
It's so bad.
But I watch them, I go, these are great. Why did they not
They're
make...
just fun. They made 2.
Yeah, but I was like, when they made the second one, and everybody was like, this is terrible, we should stop now. And I was like, they should make like 10 of these.
I agree, but even Helen Mirren's in that.
That's great. It's so stupid. Like, there's no way John Voight got up that hill. I mean, it's just silly.
It's beside the point.
But I really enjoyed them, as you said. When you go in a secret temple and you're like, oh, it's just so fun. I like that. So the Da Vinci Code made a lot of money. Number 3, so we're in the top 3, 20th Century Fox, X-Men, the third X-Men movie, The Last Stand, which was, if I remember right, it was directed by Brett Ratner. Matthew Vaughn was supposed to direct the movie because he had done some big movies. I think he'd done Layer Cake with Daniel Craig and done some... He was Guy Ritchie's producer for like years. And then he got the gig to do X-Men The Last Stand. And in like 8 weeks before production started, he quit.
Okay.
And they brought in Brett Ratner, who's like a mercenary director, like finishes up, and the movie's a mess. And the reason why it's a fun mess is because they take a character that's like one of the main characters of the series and they kill him off in like the first 15 minutes because they just get rid of him. And
Is this Patrick Stewart's character?
no, he does die in it too, though.
That's what I was like, I don't remember him dying.
Do you remember, Cyclops dies? Is James Marsden?
Yes.
He dies very quick. He doesn't last at all. Although he never had a good character in those movies. No. He was like, who is he? The wimp.
Yeah, I was not sad when he died.
No, he's like the wimp of the series, isn't he? Like, again, another movie that I can't believe it's this old is Disney's Cars, coming in at number 2. $244 million, one of the more lackluster kind of Pixar movies. They made sequels to it, but I can't say I have any interest in them at all. Number 1, the biggest grossing movie of the year, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest.
So is that number 2 or number 3?
That's number 2.
Okay. Yep. Right.
Which was the slightly less bad one.
So number 2 is where Johnny Depp has on his eyes painted other eyes. So it never looks like his eyes are shut.
Right. And the Kraken appears at the end.
Yes.
Right? And for no reason.
I enjoyed that movie.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
Especially some of those fight scenes are just so ridiculous.
And had some of them, well, it had enough
that
magic.
Big spinning wheel that they're having a fight on.
No, that's the third one, I think.
Oh, okay.
They're very easy to get mixed up, I have to admit. Because I think the third one is the year after. They filmed them back to back.
Right.
It was one of the, because The Matrix did the back to back thing. And so everybody was like,
this is how we save money.
One good movie, let's do 2 more back to back. And it never turns out well because there's too much crap going on. We don't know, quality control's gone down the tubes. And but no, the second one is, it was the one where you watch and you're like, there's still a bit of magic in it. I mean, it's not as much, but there's a little tiny bit. And then the third one comes out and you're like, no, the magic's gone.
It's dead. And then they still made 2 more.
Yeah.
Or was it 1 more?
There's at least
4.
There's 5, I think.
There is 5, yeah.
There might even be 6 now, actually.
The magic is gone.
The magic it was gone a long time ago. Yeah, just get a divorce, right? It's over. But the sequel isn't too bad. So Dead Man's Chest, I mean, it made a lot of money because Cars made $244 million. Pirates of the Caribbean 2 makes $423 million. It is...
We all went and watched it.
Everybody did. But the first movie is wonderful.
It's fantastic.
It's so good. And...
But Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley have 0 chemistry.
And
he's not great in it. Like, that movie works because Johnny Depp and Jeffrey Rush are fantastic.
That is very true.
That's why that movie works.
And... God, this podcast, we always have a good shot at Orlando Bloom in every show, don't we?
Sorry, Orlando.
We can't get through it without giving him a good slap. He's God, hit a man while he's down.
We could edit this bit out.
No, it's going in. They're like
it's a great family movie for a Saturday night in.
Right.
There's no swearing. It's inoffensive. There's no sex.
It's exciting, swashbuckly stuff.
Yeah, it's great fun.
Yeah, I used to love the stuck-up kind of English people that are like after them, and they always mess it up. I mean, it's kind of fun. And then boy, it died a death now very fast. But yes, Pirates of the Caribbean 2 was number 1, and that is the box office for 2006.
It's a good list.
Yeah, not
very
bad.
Solid.
Yeah.
Now, I have to ask, what are we doing for our next episode?
Oh, right. Well, there is a movie that me and you have been talking about for a while.
For months.
And we do, as often as our dedicated listeners will know, we do like to talk about Ridley Scott when a movie comes up. And Ridley Scott's brand new movie is Napoleon. And it's coming out at the end of November, or in the last few weeks of November.
November 22nd, I think it is.
That's right, yes. And
it's so sad that we know that.
It's true. The day Kennedy was shot, that's when it's coming out. And so it's coming out.
We're going to see it.
We're going to go see it. And we thought, right, we're going to have to do something. We're definitely going to be doing a little bit of a special. We're going to be reviewing the movie because we do need to tell you whether it's good or not. And Mel, I know you've been doing a little bit of the history.
I have. I'm reading a book about Napoleon. I'm listening to a podcast about him.
Yeah, so I feel like, there's plenty of room to criticize, I think, the history of this movie. But I have to say, Mel, I have a feeling we are not going to criticize this movie at all. I have a feeling the movie's going to be just perfect.
I think we're going to have a lot of fun.
I think it's going to be fun. Seeing Joaquin Phoenix do Napoleon, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. And listeners, it's going to be a perfect movie. I mean, we're not going to complain at all. So tune in. So that's going to be coming I don't know, the first week or the week after that Napoleon comes out.
We will get it out as quickly as possible.
That's it. So, and just so everyone knows, don't forget to Leave us a review, subscribe on all the usual podcast channels, and we will see you on the next one.